The second panel is about European scientists, diasporas in North America. And I'm one of them, but I have a really interesting group here, starting with Dorottya Nagy-Szakal from the New York Hungarian Scientific Society. Next to her, you see Dietrich Haubenberger from the Austrian Scientific and Scholars in the USA, Canada, and Mexico. And this is a very proud moment for me because it's the first time I have a second Dietrich on the panel. And we usually go in America as Dietrich or something else. If I order a coffee, I go for Derek. So finally, there are two, you know, who can pronounce the name. And then we have Steve Pavletic from the Association of Croatian American Professionals. And last but never least, Alberto RIBA from the Miami Scientific Italian Community. So, 4 European diaspora community managers who are doing that on the side, and me. I'm Dietrich Fenner. I'm the director of the German Academic International Network. We are based in New York. We have an office, and I take you through the room, you know, to bring you to our booth here, where you are very welcome to take materials and to also get a bag and a lanyard if you want. So this is the whole exhibition space where you can get information of all the diasporas who are here with the expo table. I just use that here to tell you a little bit about GAIN. So we are reaching out to about 6,500 scientists in North America and some in Germany as well who went back. We provide a monthly newsletter with information about the German research landscapes, about developments and the policies, and about job offerings. And we also organize the scientists abroad here in the US and in Canada with chapters. We call them Stammtische. And the thing you need for Stammtisch, of course, are beer coasters. So if you're willing to take one, plus you can also speak to people who are in the chapters, like Ulrike Böhme is here from the DC chapter. Yeah, raise your arm, exactly. So you can ask her all about this type of networking directly at the universities or in the cities. And the second thing is we travel in the US and in Canada and go to conferences and career fairs and maintain a network there. And the third thing we do is that we have an annual conference meeting with a talent fair. This happened just now in September in Boston, and the next year we will be on the West Coast in San Francisco, where we rustle up all our scholars and the members of the GAIN community to bring them together with politicians from Germany and with deans or chancellors of the universities, plus people from industry to mingle up and to discuss career paths that are there back in Germany and that people might have forgotten about. So that's what we do, and this is for me an easy thing to say because I'm paid and I have an office in New York, and it's 14th floor. I have a window I can open, you know, I'm really privileged. But these guys are doing this, you know, mostly in their free time on the side to jobs. They're all scientists. I'm just a science manager. And yeah, so I welcome you to introduce your diaspora management.
Thank you so much, Dietrich. My name is Dorottya Nagy-Szakal, and I usually go in Starbucks with Dora the Explorer, so that's something which is easier. And I would like to talk a little bit about my journey and how I got here and got invited by Victoria to the EURAXESS, which really impressed me, this network opportunity where you can meet with your diaspora leaders and key opinion leaders who can help you to build something. So I am actually an MD and PhD, as Dietrich mentioned. So I am in clinical science, and I was in the academia for like 7-8 years. I did my medical studies in Hungary, then I joined to a clinical fellowship, and right now, currently, I live in New York. And what was never changed during my scientific career was that the support what I got from the Hungarian community. And in Houston first, it was more like a personal and a logistical way how they supported me. And when I moved to New York, I had my first experience with this Diaspora, the New York Hungarian Scientific Society, which actually established in 2010, and by 2012 it became a non-profit society. So when I engaged with the society in 2015, I saw that it's mostly Hungarian scholars, researchers, and students who live in the New York City area, and they have monthly meetings, but it's usually like around 20-30 people and only Hungarians. So when I joined, I was very excited to meet with all these key leaders on their field and how amazing they are, but I knew that New York City has way more potential in it. So I joined the society and started to improve that, engaging young scientists to join this community and get the support from the ones who are already established. And currently, we have like 600 members in the New York Hungarian Scientific Society. And one of the major thing we are proud of that we have monthly meeting, but also we have a fundraising dinner every December, and we are able to collect that much money to support usually 3 to 5 young Hungarian scientists who are living back in Hungary or in the Carpathian Basin, and we are able to support these young scientists. So, but as usually it's me, I always dream big, and it wasn't enough for me. So I decided New York City specifically has amazing place for engaging entrepreneurs and people from different side of not just researchers and scientists, but from different young professionals. So we started just in April the Hungarian Idea Exchange, which is providing like a network for creative exchange of ideas, and we have regular meetup, dinners, networking events, and I really liked how Dietrich started to walk around while talking. We actually provide the same platform. We don't want speakers to speak behind the podium. We want them to interact with the audience, because we know that our audience is very diverse. So we try to just pitch an idea, raise awareness, and bring something important to the panel discussion, and let the speakers engage the others. So we provide these events, and we organize 2 big events, and in the future we are about to have next year like 4 of them, and we have many ideas how to bring this to the table. So this Hungarian Idea Exchange is like, I don't know if you're familiar with the goulash soup. It's like you find everything in it. So this is it, and this is a platform for great ideas. And now we have like 150 active members who regularly attend our monthly events, and 600 members, as I mentioned. And we haven't even started our outreach, which we are about to approach all the universities and to find students and identify the New York City people. So how we do this, we definitely need an amazing team. Since Dietrich mentioned that we do this voluntarily, I just started my own company, so this is what I'm doing on the side in my personal time. And we have a team, 4 of us who are working also just voluntarily, and we get a tremendous support from the Consulate General of Hungary in New York City. So we have Tamás Novak here, who is our scientific and technological attaché. He's there at the back, and we get many support to how to provide this, and we can have many of our events at the consulate, actually, which is a huge help in New York City. And so we promote network and collaboration. We collaborate with all the other Hungarian diasporas. We have a really great one and strong one in Boston. Always like 100 people attend to their monthly events. We have in LA and Connecticut and Buffalo. We have the Hungarian academicians living abroad, and that's a society. And just this summer, we signed a contract with the Hungarian Academy of Sciences in Budapest, who are going to support to build a database to be able to identify all the scholars, researchers, and high professional medical people who are living in the US. So that's going to help us to build a better mentorship, fellowship programs, and easier to network and for collaboration. And as I mentioned, it came with the Hungarian idea exchange that we are more open to the business and the finance side. So we collaborating with the startup campus in Hungary, and many of the company incubators are in the future plan to connect with them and plan events together. We have the BPDC, which the launch was just a month ago at the Embassy of Hungary here in Washington. And BPDC stands for Budapest DC, but also for Business Promotion and Development Campus. And this is going to be a startup incubator, so companies who are selected can come to Washington and pitch themselves, and we provide a little bit of support for them to be able to get to the US market easier. And from the research scholar side, we have some collaboration with different universities, such as the Central European Institute in Quinnipiac University. And we, for example, provide them project. They were the ones who actually built the whole Hungarian ID Exchange logo and website and supported us. So that was exciting for them as a student and business project, and also for us it was a great support. We collaborated with the Fulbright Scholarship, and that was a big success in October. We just had an event where it was a full house, 140 people came, and as I mentioned, we always have crazy ideas, so it was a Taste of Ideas event, which means that we paired wine with pitch talks, and it was like a quick speech and all about networking. I just want to recommend you, if you ever organize tasting event, never forget to have a wine opener, because we ended up 15 minutes before the event that we had no wine opener, and we had to open 140 wines, but we managed, and it was a big success. So, and just I want why I'm here, and I'm super excited to meet with you all, because we are really excited. We know that Hungarians are just not enough. We need to collaborate with the other diasporas, and I think there is a huge opportunity in that, to have events together. We work together with GAIN and the German Society. We had an event together with the Polish diaspora, and we really want to keep that in the future, and in 2019 we would like to have some of our events actually make it internationally. So as my last sentence, I would like to invite you who is in New York City and has a diaspora to please find me, talk to me, and in January, the end of January, we would like to have just a dinner, sit down together, and have a plan for this one international New York City diaspora event, what we are planning. Thank you so much.
Hello, hello, hello. Great, thanks, Dietrich. It's great to see finally a panel with two Dietrichs. We are an underrepresented species here. Sorry, enough with the Dietrich jokes here. So my name is Dietrich Haubenberger. I'm from Austria originally, and I'm proud and excited to represent the Austrian scientists in North America to you. And we are an organization formed by Austrian scientists and scholars for Austrian scientists and scholars. And and as Dietrich already mentioned, we have, so the last two letters, NA, stand for North America, which means we really, our target geography is the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and we are proud to be actually really active in all these three countries. This is a very historic place for our organization, because this is the place where, you know, ASCINA was originally founded in the year 2002. So we've been around for a few years, and as Dietrich mentioned, we are unpaid. We are a voluntary organization here. But what is important, and that's I think probably also I would say kind of a story of our success, that we have this great duality here with this building here and with the representation of Austria here in this building through the Office of Science and Technology here, which represents basically the official Austrian science attaché organization that was eventually our incubator of our organization. Back then, 2001, 2002, had also the great idea to spark within the group of scientists and scholars a movement to organize ourselves somewhat independently and in duality with the embassy. And kind of this duality and this partnership, I think, really made us together quite a success story to kind of look beyond our immediate political or policy missions, cross the barriers, across different disciplines, and across different geographies. Certainly, a government organization such as an embassy has much more outreach, much more possibilities in terms of even resource backbone than we have as a independently organized group. So we really leverage from each other. So 2002, ASCINA was founded here by a group of idealists that are still around. My role in this organization is I'm actually not any formal manager anymore. Our current president is Franz Franchetti. I think he's not yet here. He will show up, I think, sometime during the day. Our former president sits down here, Hubert Zajcek, which we're very proud to have here. So the philosophy of our organization is really to be, as I mentioned, to be an organization from scientists and scholars for scientists and scholars, and we're all non-paid. We all have our scientists and scholar jobs in our real life, and we are organized very decentrally. So ASCINA now maintains, I think the last time that I looked, about 13 chapters throughout North America, where we try to be really very active locally. This is where we are really strong. And meanwhile, through the many years that we exist, the scientists and scholars move again, so they move away from North America, so they are not losing their ASCINA membership, they bring ASCINA with them. So now we have, if we look on our website, ascina.org, you see we now have an ASCINA chapter in Austria, which is an alumni chapter. We have a global citizen chapter, so wherever you are an ASCINA member. And this actually comes also to the point that I think is so great that we are here on a European level, because it's my personal view, and I think I mentioned that before in one of the previous conferences. There is no Austrian science, there's no Hungarian science, no German science, there's just science. If you think of science, within geographic borders, then you're not the scientists. Or you're playing basically in a local game. We scientists basically think beyond borders. That's our job, to kind of push boundaries, and to have organizations like EURAXESS and have these initiatives, I think really bring home the point of the need for networking and collaboration, across geographic borders, and that's I think really one of the key points here. ASCINA as a network is really organized and driven by our members, me personally, I was exposed to ASCINA when I was still in Austria. I'm a neurologist by training, and I'm an MD as well, clinical researcher. And when I was about to submit my grant to get funded to come here to the National Institutes of Health here in Bethesda, where I still am, my first contact with ASCINA was actually back home in Austria. ASCINA organized, there was a conference organized in Vienna by the Austrian scientists in North America in Vienna to talk about careers, to talk about their projects, to talk about science. And I thought that's interesting. I go there, so I basically connected there, and 10 years later, 11 years later, I'm sitting here talking about ASCINA. So that's really kind of the arc of ASCINA that even starts well before scientists actually come here to North America. And that's also what we are really defining as our target group, or as a part of our network. We are really very inclusive, very broad. I mean, there's also the discussion, who is Austrian actually? Do you have to have a passport? We don't look for passports. Does it mean you have to have attended a graduate school or school in Austria? Basically, it's really it's a state of mind personally. If you like Apfelstrudel, you're an Austrian. You can join our network. So But the point is, it's really, Austrian scientists, it's really based from, undergraduate, students who come here for a temporary research project all the way up to Nobel laureates that, who really want to stay in touch with the diaspora. So this is really how broad we are defining ourselves. And that's really kind of the key programs of our organization that I want to talk about next is really, brings that to light and really goes towards that direction, because the two big programs that we offer or that we organize as ASCINA are our science awards, our ASCINA awards that are given out once yearly tomorrow night. I hope you all will come. And the second is the ASCINA mentoring program. So when you think about the ASCINA mentoring program, which is a program which we're very proud of, which is also now in existence for a little bit over. I think we introduced it, or started introducing it 10 years ago, which is now a really successful program with the goal to bring to connect early stage scientists when they come into North America. We want to pair them together with established Austrian scientists here in North America basically for a 1-year mentoring relationship, and that's a mentoring that we really see in the area of career mentoring. We want to stimulate an interaction between mentees and mentors, where a mentee, when this person comes here as a mentee, only has basically his or her lab chief available as classical mentor within the lab, to have somebody else outside your lab who may be actually from your discipline of science. And who you can talk to, and who has basically an understanding also about the cultural challenges at the beginning of moving, formalities, etc. But even down to the point to think about career moves after the first stage of a research experience here in the United States. So we are now I think today we're getting together the next mentoring pairs for the next year. So now we have 6 pairs that we selected for the coming years. We always offer a 1-year period, and one great aspect of success is our collaboration with Austrian universities, because we are not funded, our ASCINA is not funded, necessarily by annual budgets that we receive. We're really, dependent on fundraising, and by partnering with Austrian universities, even with alumni organizations in Austria, who basically contribute, minimal but still relevant funds that allow these mentoring pairs, for example, to meet each other. So a mentoring pair, once selected, once matched, they get a budget, and they can basically use that up to meet each other. So therefore, we can, have a mentee in Miami and a mentor up in Vancouver. So the mentoring program and the funds will cover for that. So that's the mentoring program, where we really try to bring the very young early stage scientists and the very established scientists on the other side together into our network through that 1-year period. And our second success story probably that we have to mention, where we are really thankful also to the Federal Ministry of Science in Austria, which is the organization who is actually funding these prizes, that we are able to award research awards for excellent research publications that have been put together during the research stay here in the United States, or here in North America, where we're able to award ASCINA awards. Now also, the first year was also 2008, so now also 10 years later, we will be awarding 3 awards tomorrow. So, and these awards are, one award goes to so these are all basically early to mid-career awards. There's 1 junior PI award, and then 2 young scientists awards, and they are really funded well. So, so 10,000 euro for the junior PI, and 7,500 euro for the young scientists. So these are actually really attractive awards, and we're happy that both with the Austrian Science Fund, who's helping us with getting the applications, reviewing the applications. So that's all done independently through independent review agencies, and then through the sponsorship of the Federal Ministry, we're able to offer that to the science community. So really, through the mentoring program, early stage and established, and for the mid-careers with the awards, that's really, these are the incentives to come into our network, kind of from a central organization. But as I mentioned, we're really organized decentrally. I was the chapter head here in the DC area, where we really, welcomed the incoming young scientists. We met once, or we're meeting once monthly, or have been meeting once monthly when I was the chapter head here in this usually, you know, we asked the scientists to give a talk about their research focus, and again, since in that room you have everything from basic scientists, applied scientists, social scientists, and the rule was always, you know, you have to present your research. You got 45 minutes, and you have to talk in a way that everybody in the room understands you. So it's also a good exercise. And if you failed, then you had to pay for the drinks afterwards. So the social aspect is certainly also very, very important for us. So as I mentioned, we are not paid here, the official people running the program. We are happy to have one person who helps out kind of on an hourly basis, who we can pay for the logistics to administer, you know, all the funding aspect for the mentoring program. But that's basically it. This is really our free time that we put in here to kind of to contribute to the diaspora. And yeah, so that's ASCINA. And I'm looking forward to see you all, maybe, you know, throughout the weekend when we all gather for more fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Dietrich.
Good afternoon. By now, I think it's afternoon. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Vicky, for the invitation. I would like to acknowledge my colleagues on the panel, Herbert, and Dorothea, and Alberto. Same as Herbert, too. I work at the National Institutes of Health. I'm a senior investigator there, and I've been there since 2002, and I have proud career, Omaha, Nebraska, in Midwest, and Seattle. Came to the United States. My specialty is cellular immunotherapy for cancer and hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. And as a common story is when scientists or academicians come and stay abroad, is sort of like I was 30 years old, and so I already had some accomplished career and publications, and then stayed in top institutions in the US. So it's a kind of a common theme. But I'm not here to talk necessarily about me, about my career. It was mentioned before, and maybe something interesting for the conversation after these presentations. What we do, it's really our not our main job. It's all volunteering. So we heard about building bridges. I think talking about diasporas, this is about building bridges. We heard a lot about building bridges from the governmental levels, from European side or Canadian. Now we're talking about more like a grassroots efforts. I think Vicky mentioned before the 16 scientific diasporas in the US or North America, and I guarantee that each of these 16 have their different and special, unique story. It's challenging when you do it on site. You have to be driven. You have to like it. You really have to enjoy it. It's about communication with your friends and peers, and enjoying this, and at the same time trying to do something. So, Association of Croatian American Professionals that I'm vice president of. It's a new and young organization. It was founded in 2014. It's amazingly young by age membership, and so I'm kind of on the outlier there. Average is like 35, 40 age, and the genesis is maybe slightly different than what I heard before from other colleagues. It comes from several ends. One, like all other national communities, there's a substantial diaspora of Croatians who emigrated to United States or North America over the last 100 years, different waves. There are generation 1, 2, and 3. And then there's this folks like me that completed their education, and for my case, medical school in Europe, and came here and stayed. So Washington, D.C. area and community where I have been for the last 16 years, it's very unique, actually, comparing to other major cities across the United States. Everybody here in this diaspora, almost nobody was born, except those younger kids, nobody was born in the United States. They're active, high achievers, frequently type 8 personalities as well, but very accomplished in different areas of endeavor. So it's science, It's education, it's diplomacy, it's politics, it's banking, it's technology, you name it, it's arts. And this is how we started about 8 years ago, meeting here, something that my colleagues are doing in New York. Once a month, Croatian embassy actually opened their doors in 2010 to our community to use. And if you want to meet somewhere, they have organized. Well, it's not so easy to find where to meet and how to get this done. And we're lucky that at that time, Croatian embassy offered a space for once a month approximately gatherings. They were based on short presentations, wide variety of areas, arts, wine tasting, talking about ends or people building satellites, lots of medicine, kind of different things, and then networking and Q&A sessions. So this is what we call Croatian Hour. It's been still going on. There was a parallel initiative from California, from some Canadian Croatians that live there. They have their companies and attorneys. They created a web-based network for communication. You know, you put your profile, so you're not reinventing the wheel each time. You know, who knows somebody who works where and so on. So there was the intention to make this web-based a mechanism so people can communicate. All this is volunteering basis, so it's on your free time, community service. And then somehow through those communication, we decided, well, why don't we do something on the national US level, some kind of connection between those two. And this is how Association of Croatian Americans, American Professionals came to life. And it was founded in 2014. We had our first conference in person in 2016 here in Washington, D.C. It was driven by local, there were about 250 participants. I would say about 80% of people came on their own dime from all kind of sides of the United States. There were amazing, usually younger generation people, and everybody felt this fantastic chemistry. There were panels on science, on politics, on energy, you know, all these different areas of human endeavors, you know. So we are not focused only on STEM and medicine, biomedicine, all it's our important focus, but other things. And just people felt, you know, this is working. And let me tell you, it's been challenging how to bring new generations of diaspora into process. You know, they're amazing people, but they're third generation. They're not interested anymore in cultural societies and dancing and, you know, playing, you know, instruments and kind of this kind of things, or fraternal societies. And there was something they resonated with them, and it's working. Second meeting was in Chicago, 2017 in May, and just we had in October 300 or 400 people attending in Silicon Valley. So if I say Silicon Valley, you know what is this about. So it's working. Cleveland is in September 2019. Then comes New York, our fifth. The society is, by now we have about 1,000 members. It's completely supported by the membership fees. There some fundraising for those conferences. So Vicky asked me, like, can you tell something how EURAXESS North America contribute to this idea? And I have to say it did. You know, there's no one simple story. As I said, we started in Washington, D.C. You know, Vicky organized some 5 years ago, so some very inspiring meetings in Italian embassy. I was twice there. They have the best cappuccino in town, I can tell you that. And different scientific diaspora represented by the Spanish embassy, some others. I've been very inspired by the achievements of the Austrian scientific community, and actually even the embassy has a very commendable organized office for science and technology that always try to tell others, you know, especially Croatian embassy, you know, try to emulate. It's not, you know, it's a slow process. So EURAXESS was really, really inspiring in all this, and thank you for promoting you and Vicky. It frequently comes like a question, so do you get any governmental support? Well, the short answer is no. The long answer is it's changing. So I just mentioned that embassy really played the whole Croatian government. You know, I know it's not 28th, maybe 27th member of the, I don't know, European Union. They're showing increasingly interest in what we are doing here as a professional diaspora. The idea is that, you know, we help ourselves, we meet each other, we enjoy, we create some new ideas around projects, around task forces, help our professional individual growth in different areas. We have a number of sections, all these areas of human endeavor I mentioned. And then at the same time, so we are open to anybody who is interested in working. It's not some, as we said, what is Austrian, what is Croatian? You know, we're Croatian Americans, we're friends. Only this 2018, there were 225,000 Americans who visited Croatia. So these are all our friends, you know, that we work with and we count in. So it's these concepts are changing. And government is realizing as well how this working together. Our goal is not how can we only help Croatia in the old ways. It's really how can we build bridges, how we can create projects that are scientific or they're business ideas that could build mutual benefit. That's the driving idea, because the only way we think there could be lasting benefit. You know, we mentioned we have, maybe I mentioned we have 11 chapters. One is in Zagreb, in capital, so it's only first chapter of an foreign, diaspora organization in Croatia, and it's really playing. It has a very nice location on the main square in the old town. I think it's going to help a lot in the forthcoming plans. Croatia is chairing. I heard European Union in early 2020. They're planning some gateway to Europe events on that regard. So government, we were able to get some small grant for organizing of our conferences, so they have those mechanisms. And again, embassy, it's been really forthcoming. It's not all about money, but a little gets you a long way. If you're on your own time, you know, everything what has to be done, people do on free time. You can't push them, you can't scream at them, you know, you have to be very tactful and how to motivate, how to share. It's in the real art how to make it happen, and I'm very proud of the accomplishments. And hopefully we're gonna, over years, find ways of being more and more a real professional organization, maybe having more fundraising effectively and hiring some folks that can be at least a little bit do some professional work for us. So I'll just finish what activities we have. We do all kind of things. I mean, the most represented members, professional, actually attorneys, you know. But there are others. There are artists. There are scientists. There are lots of. We have a very powerful medical tourism task force. We had in May we had a retreat meeting here of selected individuals here in Washington D.C. at the embassy. The idea is, you know, Croatia as a destination for healthy living and a healthy aging. We know it's beautiful. We know it has a strong tradition of medicine. I came there. Amazing number of highly achieving healthcare professionals, and we know healthcare is big, 20% of GDP in this economy here. It's a big deal, and in science and economy. So we have actually a list of real projects. They're moving from using the best scientific ideas to brand approaches to medical wellness, to, you know, to treatment of chronic diseases, retirement communities. My two most favorite actually projects are I finished here. One is issue of cancer. So how can we improve cancer care services and research in Croatia? You know, that's been going on scientific collaboration. When you look at the healthcare disparities in European Union, when you look at Eastern Europe, it's really stunning how healthcare outcomes and survival in cancer are lagging in Eastern European countries of European Union comparing to West. Same is with the research funding access. So we are planning actually with the Academy of Science in Croatia project. It's going to be oncology forum. It's going to be on a yearly basis, address these issues, not only in the ambition to serve Croatia, but really to focus to this region for Baltics, Black Sea and Adriatic, you know, to get these people and leading thinkers together. And the last and not least, I would say the most important is education. You know, investing in the next generation, you know, new talents. I can't emphasize enough how that's been important. We all agree, and gratifying. I had about 25 folks rotating through my center. There 24 went back. There were keys that stay up to 1 year. They have a fantastic network in my area of expertise, getting European grants, leading center in that area in Zagreb, and I think it's a model that we would be interested in actually through, and EURAXESS, anything else, how can we boost these opportunities to have as many as possible visiting junior faculty or any faculty to come to the US, go back. At the same time, I had opportunity to have a fellowship through the U.S. Embassy there, and what's left, you know, it's the center that's doing well, and I think as many opportunities and funding mechanisms. That's one of our major objectives through ACAP as well, to have as many of those that can rotate, because these are people then we really can work together. You know, distances are today. You can just send an email. You know, it's like a next door, right? Revise the paper. So I'll stop here, and Herbert,
I'd like to start by also thanking EURAXESS and Vicky and Diana for invitation, and our Austrian friends for hosting us. And I'm also told that I'm the last speaker before lunch, so I'm supposed to keep your attention alive for a few more minutes, so I'll try something a bit different. So my name is Alberto RIBA. I'm a bioinformatics scientist at the University of Florida in beautiful Gainesville. And I'm here as a representative of the Miami Scientific Italian community, which I'm going to call MSIC from now on. The MSIC is a nonprofit association that has its main mission to foster and support the technological exchange between Italian scientists working in our area, in the southeastern United States in general, and Italy. And when I say Italy, I mean both the, not just the academic environment in Italy, but also institutional organizations and the business world. And in particular, it's highly focused on maintaining connections with small and medium businesses in Italy. This is a relatively young organization. It was founded in 2014. It's still relatively small. It's highly ambitious. We have a new president that's been in charge for the last couple of years who has a lot of very ambitious plans, and is really trying to move this forward to the next level. But as again, it's a small organization, it's young. I don't yet have a lot of success stories to tell about it. So what I thought I was going to do is to tell a little bit of my own personal story and try to connect it with the theme of this meeting, innovation and how it benefits society, and try to explain what role an organization like MSIC could play in this context. This is also something that's strictly connected to what EURAXESS is doing. And, okay. So just to talk a little bit briefly about where I come from and what I do, I have an engineering and computer science background, but my whole career has been at the intersection between these disciplines and the biomedical field. So I started in the early 90s doing a PhD in bioengineering, and this was the early days of the World Wide Web, and what we did was to create one of the first telemedicine systems based on the web back at the time when people only had modem connections at home to connect to the internet. Tools were very, very primitive. But we already had the idea to try to combine technological process with things that really have an impact on society. In this case, our application was diabetes care, which is, as you probably all know, is a major it's a major issue. It's one of the diseases that has the highest social cost in Western societies. Then in '99, I moved to Children's Hospital in Boston, and while I was there, I transitioned from the medical informatics field to bioinformatics and genomics. And I've been in that field ever since. In 2006, I moved to the University of Florida, and I now manage a bioinformatics core that essentially handles the needs of what is the largest medical and academic research center in the whole area between Atlanta and Miami. We're basically very large area with a very active research community. And the reason why I'm mentioning all this is that in this field, I've been able to witness what I think is one of the most breathtaking technological advances that I can think of, what is now called the genomics revolution. So when I started in this field, was a time when the Human Genome Project was completed, the sequencing for the first time of the entire human genome. That was a project that required an international effort that lasted for about 10 years. Total investment was almost $3 billion just to generate the first draft of the human genome. Today, we can do the same thing in our labs in a matter of days for a few $1,000s, like less than $5,000, let's say. So this has really been an impressive technological advancement. It will be like in aviation to go from the first flight of the Wright brothers to the Airbus A380 in 15 years. So it's really something comparable to that. And not only this is amazing from the technological point of view, but it's also obviously something that has very, very big repercussions on society. So the fact that they were now able to sequence the genome of any human individual means that we're getting closer and closer to the promise of personalized medicine. We're closer and closer to being able to tailor therapies and drugs to the individual rather than having to go through very costly and time-consuming clinical trials. So this brings us closer to the ability to treat effectively diseases like diabetes, I just mentioned, cancer. We have more and more advanced and impressive tools. We are now able to observe gene expression within each individual cell. We can go in and fix errors with very high precision. And these are all advances that, again, not only are technically impressive, but they're also going to have very, very significant impacts on all our societies. Now, this is only one of the reasons why people like us, researchers like us, may at some point decide that they want to give something back, so to speak. And since we're all coming from European countries and most of us were educated there, it's natural to think that, well, I've learned how to do these things, I have all these tools at my disposal, let's give something back, let's see if we can make an impact in our own countries of origin. So I'm going to take the viewpoint of someone like me who has done most of his research career in the United States, but at some point may want to go back to Europe and try to apply and try to bring back the expertise and the skills and the technology that we developed here to the European society. So there may be other reasons, of course. There may be just be family reasons, or we may want to take advantage of free education, free healthcare, maybe for the food or for the coffee, or there may be more opportunistic reasons. We may believe that with the skills that we have acquired and developed here may give us a competitive advantage. If we go back to Europe, there may be fields where research and technology there are not yet as advanced, and so it may be a strategic decision to try to move back and take advantage of that. So whatever the reason is, it's something that a lot of us are probably thinking about, and the fact that we call ourselves a diaspora kind of implies that, right? The fact that we have ties to our home countries that we want to maintain, and that we do not come here with the idea of staying here forever. Most of us probably. The fact that we're all in this room proves that, and the fact that organizations like EURAXESS exist. So, but of course, the journey back across the ocean in the other direction may be, in some cases, even more difficult than the one coming here. For example, just citing the Italian case, getting back into Italian universities after you leave them is essentially impossible. There are famous cases of people who have won a Nobel Prize, and then they try to get a professor position in Italy, and they were denied. So it's true. So, but even without that, I mean, there may be other reasons why adapting to the academic environment in Europe, and especially in Italy, may be difficult after trying it here. We all know the approach is very different. American universities tend to be more business-like, more dynamic, more, they have more resources. And it may be a bit difficult to adapt to a different way of doing things once if we try to go back. So what I'm getting at is an alternative is to focus strictly on technology transfer and try to find other opportunities, maybe outside the academic world, to resell what we have developed and what we have learned here. And so this is where I think organizations like EURAXESS first and also MSIC can play a very important role, because again, that's also not a straightforward path. There are many, many reasons why trying to get into the business, try to get into the commercial sector in Europe may be equally difficult coming from a different reality like the one here in the United States. So we know that, well, first of all, the issue of regulation and bureaucracy, it's all very different. We've heard earlier about tools that are in place here in the United States to facilitate technology transfer and spin-off and so on, like SBIR grants. What is the equivalent in Europe? We've heard something about this, but it is pretty hard from this side of the ocean to have a good picture of what all the opportunities are and what are the steps to get there, what you need to be worried about, what you need to know, how do you go around finding the necessary support. Also, having a network of connections and support is very important. We spend years developing that here in the country where we live and work, and then having to redo the same process going back to our own home countries or even to a different country in Europe can be daunting. So there's also a very different approach in Europe to risk, to how you go about either joining a business or creating a business. Here in this country, you can create a company in 30 minutes without getting up from your couch. We all know that in Europe, things are not nearly as straightforward. So it's probably not as easy as I described it, but still. So again, getting back to the main point, this I think is where organizations like MSIC can play a very, very important role, both in facilitating moving scientists back to Europe, which provides a benefit to the scientists themselves, but also bringing back technologies, expertise, and skills, which also has an impact on society as a whole. So the way that MSIC is approaching this is by having very, very strong connections to strategic players in Italy, and this is not limited to universities. There are links to some of the largest universities in Italy, but also to government organizations that support small and medium businesses. And the Italian economy is highly focused on small and medium business. We will say that that's what makes Italy go forward. And these are the businesses that usually are more nimble. They have a faster turnaround time. They're better able to take new technologies and bring them to market. And so these may be very good channels for Italian, or not just Italian, but for scientists in general who may want to use this as a way to go back. Give you some more details. So this organization was founded by a group of Italian scientists, mostly in the medical field. As I said, about 4 or 5 years ago. Now it's grown to 40 scientific members and an almost equal number of members in an international advisory board, which includes some very prominent people. And its main mission is to act then as a matchmaker between Italian scientists and companies who may be interested in acquiring and reusing technology developed here, and also potentially in offering job opportunities. It also provides, well, it has 6 main areas of activity. One of them is networking and bidding, so finding opportunities that may be available both at the national level and at the European level. So in this sense, it kind of overlaps a little bit with what EURAXESS does. But it also offers services that are more targeted at specific technologies, like design services. So you have an idea, you want to go from analysis of your idea to creating a prototype, research and development, training, communications and marketing, and finally marketing and finance. How do you go about finding funding, venture capital for your idea, which, as we know, in Europe is a bit harder than in this country. So basically, these are all the different types of actions that this organization wants to put in place to support moving technologies and human capital back from this country to Europe and to Italy in general. And this is all I have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Albert. So we are here to answer your questions. So if there are any questions from the audience, we will be happy to answer it. Do we have a microphone somewhere? Or are there any questions? Oh, thank you. We can hear you, but it's always better for the others, for the audience to speak in the mic. Thank you.
This is quite an easy question, but I was just curious for Alberto. You mentioned you're in Gainesville, and there's a big medical community, and I know Diaspora in Tampa as well. I was just curious why you're the Miami SIG rather than Florida, if just because of
just historical reasons. It was founded in Miami, and it's just starting to expand beyond that. So I think I'm probably the first one to join from outside of Miami. So. We may want to think about changing the name at some point and make it more inclusive, but essentially its mission is to cover the entire southeastern United States.
Yeah, I was just curious because of the whole Tampa region and the medical community down there.
Yes, yeah, of course, that's also very...
yeah, thank you, but it's a good question. I had the same to the group here, you know, how do you reach out? I mean, that's a difficult issue, you know. If it comes to GAIN, you know, we know about the scholars from Alexander von Humboldt Foundation and German Research Foundation and German Academic Exchange Service. So we get into contact with them, but what is about the others who are here, you know, on their own steam and who applied for a job, who are early researcher, who did their PhD here? How do we reach them, you know? How do you do that? Alberto, maybe you'd like to start? Or you answered that now? Okay, so I go for Dietrich. Here's the microphone.
Okay. So as I mentioned before, I think we tried to reach our community already, you know, at a stage before they even come to North America, by, you know, through using actually or leveraging off of our alumni back home in Austria or even in Europe to spread the word about ASCINA, and so they're actively engaged in information, you know, events in Austria about you know, doing science in North America. So that's the first point. The second check-in point is certainly also then once grants are awarded and being announced through the funding agencies, we usually, you know, collaborate with them that, you know, some information material about our network is included in their grant, you know, package once they come over. And then third, I mean, at least, you know, a big part certainly plays our website. We have a very, you know, big website with a big membership, you know, area where you can log in, where the membership is basically free. I mean, it's also a question for funding. So the basic membership is free. You can become a premium member when you pay a little bit. So this is how we also fund a little bit that our network. But basically, there's no hurdle getting in there. So you have there's a membership area where you can actually click into the area where you're going. You're going to New York and you sign up there, and you get a list of all the other people that are there. So your chapter head in New York gets a notification that you just registered for New York and will reach out to you. So that's that as well. And then in the end, you know, it's in the science, you know, at the NIH, you know, when you stand in line in the cafeteria and you hear somebody with a very good Austrian accent, and you just, I mean, it's really about, you know, the network reaching out by itself through multiplications, through local chapters, through local events. So there's a multifaceted approach.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, it's very similar, and we grew from, I don't know, 4 years ago we had 30 members, now we have 1,000. Just word of mouth, website, meetings, people want to join, and I would be almost afraid in numbers to grow too fast. But what helps is task forces and focus projects, and then how people then reach out and ask, and it's been very successful. You know, you need X or Y expertise, and you send a society-wide email, and always somebody volunteers. So it's kind of revolving around individual projects, interest, and you know, just fame.
Yeah, we also use the local chapters, and we are going to start our active outreach to literally double or even triple next year our membership, because I believe there are many scholars we haven't reached out yet, and it wasn't growing organically as it should be. So we want to do an active outreach next year to find these people, and definitely what I really like, to find them even before they come to the United States. So that's something definitely the young generation, that would be an easy way to find the universities and the scholarship programs and identify those students who are coming to the United States.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? Yes, there, please.
Yeah, I had a similar question to what was just discussed, and maybe a little bit of challenge. I'm a professor at Virginia Tech, so they spell it out very long, Virginia Polytechnic Institute and everything else. We are representatives of the technical side, and we are basically paired somehow in the Washington metropolitan chapter, which is so dominated, and nothing against my friends over there in the medical field, yeah. But most of those meetings are medical gatherings, it seems to us, and so Blacksburg is 4 hours from here. We're the biggest technical university here on this side. Very long reach with the industry, but not so much in building bridges. So the question for me is now, how can we better bridge the different fields? And we actually have a shortage of connections in the engineering side in ASCINA. And could be part that engineering is so strong in Europe that people don't want to come here, which is slightly different where the medical field is very, I shouldn't say we're bad in engineering here either. We actually started a local chapter in Blacksburg. With 3 people. We had Glühwein tasting and Kastanien, and we didn't call it, but we just noticed that there is no chapter here that is strong or connecting technical sides. Do you have any answers to that? Can we bridge the topics better, or how do we get more engagement on that side?
I mean, that's certainly, yeah. I mean, this is a very good example, both from a subject matter, but also from geography. If we think about Washington, D.C., that starts down, you know, in Virginia, goes all the way up to Baltimore to find, you know, have the ability to just get together. You know, it involves lots of driving. If that's one greater, we actually call it Greater Washington D.C. chapter. So usually, you know, then sometimes, you know, smaller chapters pop up within the chapter. A local Baltimore group forming, and then it's great to hear that there's a Virginia a group as well. But on the other hand side, I mean, you're right. I couldn't agree more that we need to actively work to bridge the gaps between the different disciplines. In the end, this is what, you know, these networks, you know, can really be successful. That when you bring, you know, disciplines together that wouldn't otherwise talk to each other, but, you know, just because Austria brings you together, you know, I mean, projects started because of that, and I think that's important also for whoever. I mean, although Austrian has a very flat hierarchy, but whoever basically is charged or charges him or herself by organizing a group to make sure that you have a diverse group, that you bring different, you know, exciting careers together, not only within special areas, but also across areas. And I think that's what's always been the exciting part, that we have an organization where we have, you know, I mean, the biomedical people are always overrepresented in my experience. But when you can really also bring, you know, basic science, engineering, and you know, really important also social science to the table, and this is, you know, we learned, especially here in DC, it's fantastic, you know, with all the institutions. I think one of the best, you know, talks I heard here from local chapter people were, you know, from social scientists who were fellows at the Holocaust Museum, for example, talk about, you know, historic aspects here. So I think that, but I agree that this doesn't happen by itself. I think a network has to be very active in have, you know, in representing also that diversity within its network.
Can I reflect?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, sorry. So the New York Hungarian Scientific Society was really similar. It was really focusing on the clinical medical field. So we lost many of the high professional members who were in engineering, astrophysics. From Columbia, we have an amazing group. We lost them because of the theme of the meetings. And so the Hungarian ID exchange also started and launched because we wanted to keep up this diversity of science, bringing in social science as well, and to share this network, because that's when something new and something big can develop from that one. So it's really important to support that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, we have the same situation at GAIN, but with different fields. So we have a lack of social science, for instance, but engineering, that might be a German thing, you know, but engineering is quite strong. It's the second largest group. So this is for you as well, you know, you can also join the German chapter, you know, at GAIN, you know, and we get you there, you know. You wanted to add something, Steve?
Just reflect that for me, the most gratifying participation in this network has been really learning what other people do outside my profession, and it's amazing chemistry. There's a fine balance, but speaking, you know, of our group, it's really very diverse. And I was worried about this, you know, how somebody's going to listen about, you know, if you talk about STEM and you're some kind of you know, painter or something. It's an amazing enjoyment actually meeting smart people, you know, and people love it. So it's possible, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions? Oh yeah, Dima, you get the mic, yes?
Yes, it's a two-part question, but first of all, thank you to everyone who is here. It's a bit of shameless advertising here. Could each of you reflect on your dealing or your interaction with EURAXESS in as far as helping to animate your network, your scientific diaspora here in North America? And my second question is to the audience. Who here wants to start a diaspora? Please find me. No one? Are you all part of a European scientific diaspora in North America? Hands up if you are. So I repeat my question. Who here wants to start a European scientific diaspora? Oh, Dietrich, we're going to have to do a lot better than this.
You scare them off, you know? That's so much pressure, you know? Well, we have to deal with that. We have to deal with that. So thanks for the question to us. So I can start, you know, because last year I was here for the first time and you invited me back. Thank you. And last year it was my first week in the job for GAIN, you know. So I learned so much, and I got a first network of different diasporas in Europe to learn from each other and to see how how far they are in the process and what their aims are. So it's very important to me, and I learned so much from EURAXESS, and that gives me the opportunity not only to thank you and Vicky for this conference, but for your work all year long. And I know that from GAIN, you know, that if you have an annual conference, everyone focus on this, you know, and there's so much more work to be done during the year, and yeah, so it's highly appreciated that you rustle us up here every year, and I will be back next year, for sure.
Yes, I also would like to thank the invitation, and I remember when I was here the first time, when it was the first EURAXESS meeting, and I joined the New York Hungarian Scientific Society, and my first organized diaspora actually, and I had no idea what to say, what to do, but I went back home to New York with all the excitement that how much possibilities are in these diasporas. And it's not just a community of 30 people who get together on one topic, but there are many, many things in it. And we had amazing annual events on mentorship programs and all the other EURAXESS events, which just made me think and try to build something bigger and better every year. So thank you so much, Vicky and Riva.
Yeah, so I mean, as I mentioned before, for me, I think science is inherently something that is larger just as a small country, and I think that there's something like EURAXESS now is a great start, and I think we have to grow that substantially. Both as an organization, but also in a mindset. I think even just getting together and hearing from the initiatives from all other countries, we think that this is the way we do it, this works for us, but there are so many new ideas that we can also pick up from each other. So even if it's just for that to bring us all together and share ideas, that's certainly already a check here. And I think when we then as a next step think about maybe even joint activities, and I think we'll talk about the mentorship program afterwards. I think this is something where we could really move towards, network our organizations together, learn from each other, and work together. That's certainly a great point, because in the end, we are all, representing European researchers and the great stuff that European researchers are doing here, back home into Europe, and that's actually one of the last point that I wanted to add in terms of outreach. One thing that we do is really try to work very hard also with the media and journalists over in Austria when there's a great publication from an Austrian scientist, we want to make sure that this is featured in the Austrian press. So I think to think about that on a European level to represent back home what great success European science is contributing not only to North America, but eventually globally through networks like that. I think that's really the key. I think this we have a long way to go. I think that's a wonderful nucleus that is happening here. So I'm looking forward to the next years working together.
Well, same here. I think what EURAXESS allowed me to, although I do live in Washington D.C., really allows me access to the European community and really being part of that community. Although I live here, it's been really inspiring and facilitating for many of our ideas that we put forward. Thank you so much.
Okay, I have to be candid and admit that I didn't know about EURAXESS until very recently. So what the answer to the question is that it would have been very useful to know about it when I moved to the United States, and I hope that it can give support to people who are now doing what we did years ago. So just to go back to my personal experience, when I left Italy, I went to Boston. I basically didn't know anybody. It was just kind of a jump in the dark. What helped me a lot was to join the MIT European Club, which was a student organization. I was not a student at MIT, but they didn't mind. I mean, they allowed me to join anyway. And that is really what helped me, first of all, make friends, find people to do things with, and also get integrated into what it means to live in a place like Boston. And it was mostly, the main activity I did was pub tours. So, but still, having some kind of support network and some kind of organization around you that can welcome you and keep you in touch with people that you have a lot in common with, more than you have with Americans, is something that, in my case, was very useful, and that's the organization that did it for me. So, and it was an embryo of what I think EURAXESS is now, and of course on a much smaller scale. They were trying to do kind of the same thing. They organized career fairs to help people not just stay in their labs, but develop career opportunities and so on. So that was very useful for me, and I believe that EURAXESS can be very much useful to people who are taking the same step at this point.